When my wife and I got married in 2013, we lived in a small town just outside of Baton Rouge called Denham Springs. It was always a goal of ours to move into Baton Rouge because that's where we did life. That's where our church was, our community, our friends, and the drive time was getting super old. Fast forward a couple of years, we were able to do just that. We found a great house in our price range and in the location we wanted to be in. We stayed there a handful of years, and then 2021, we made the decision to get out of Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is a great spot with lots of opportunity, but it's not for everyone. So in this video, I'm going to share with you why we got out of Baton Rouge and why you may want to reconsider moving into it. Let's dig in. So before getting into it, if you get any value from this at all, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. Plus, it helps the channel grow, to be transparent. I also love to interact, so if you want to leave some feedback in the comments, some thoughts, some suggestions, or just even give us a like, I'd be super appreciative. So to clarify, we moved to Central Louisiana. It's just north of Baton Rouge and just west of Denham Springs. Technically, it's still East Baton Rouge Parish. Some would argue still Baton Rouge. However, we did move out of the Baton Rouge city limits. I also want to set the stage that this video is less about where we moved to and more about why we moved from, because I think there's a lot of different cities that could fit the same mold as Central for you. The main factor that gave us the spark to consider moving was a growing family. We had the classic 4th bedroom conundrum. We needed another bedroom, needed more space, and that's where we started considering other options. But speaking of a growing family and kids, that brings me to my first point of why we moved out. Obviously with kids, schools are a big deal. And I don't think anyone will argue with you that Baton Rouge doesn't exactly have the best public school system. A lot of people living in Baton Rouge go the private school route, and as you can imagine, that ain't cheap. So a big factor in us moving was going somewhere with a reputable public school system. Now, ironically, our kids do go to private school in Central. However, we wanted to have the option of a good public school system. We also are foster parents, so in case we got a kid that needed to be put in the public school system, we wanted to have a solid option for them. Central has a great public school system, but there's also various parishes and areas around Baton Rouge that also have great school systems. Zachary, Livingston Parish, and Ascension Parish, to name a few. And that's honestly a common thing for when growing families are considering schools, they move out of Baton Rouge and into those areas. Maybe you have the budget to have a private school experience in Baton Rouge, that's great, but if you're wanting a higher ranked school system, then Baton Rouge may not be for you. Affordability. Location, location, location. You hear that all the time in real estate. If you are close to the best dining, the best shops, and all the hot spots, odds are the real estate's gonna be expensive. We loved our house, we loved the location, we were close to everything, but with needing more space, it involved getting a bigger house, which caused us to see, okay, this is gonna be expensive if we get what we want. So we started looking outside of Baton Rouge to see what other options there were. To put into perspective pricing and the different affordability options, the builder we actually chose to build our house where we are now was building a house about 3 blocks away from where we were. Similar square footage, similar lot size, relatively similar finishes, and that house was priced at close to $700,000. We bought a house, again, similar specs as that, in Central, and we paid a little over $500,000. Obviously, some variables went into that. We got into our neighborhood pretty early before prices went up, but you can see in general, going outside of Baton Rouge to cities like Prairieville, or Gonzales, or Denham Springs, Zachary, or even Port Allen, if you want to go across the bridge, you're going to get a little more bang for your buck. But with the understanding that you're going to be a little further away from the hot spots and the things you may be used to living close to. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean all of Baton Rouge is super expensive, but for what we wanted in a house, it made more sense to move out of Baton Rouge. Now, obviously, I'm in real estate, so if you're curious about the real estate in Baton Rouge or these other various cities that I've mentioned, there's going to be a link in the description below. You can click that and go to our website. There's going to be some community tabs. You can click on the cities and learn about them and see what the real estate looks like in them. If you want to explore options and get my perspective on what may be good for you, I'd be happy to help. Just reach out. The next reason of why we moved out of Baton Rouge may be a little more specific to me, but it's community. We actually bought a house right down the street from my parents. We wanted to be close to them during the season of life of having little children. They're a big help, and of course it doesn't hurt to be close to family. But on a broad scale, I think it does matter to be close to your community. Whether it's family or friends or church or an organization you're in, if you're closer to them, you can probably get a little deeper sense of community with them. Now, yes, we could have stayed in Baton Rouge and have done the same private school that we're doing now. However, as you get more involved with school, they start making friends, you make friends with the parents, and we'd be driving out there a lot more. So being close to that matters to us. Again, maybe a little more specific to me in this situation, but I think community does matter and it's a factor for you. My last point is safety. Now, I'll be honest, Baton Rouge doesn't exactly have a crime rate to brag about. We do struggle in that area. So moving outside of the city limits and being further away from where that stuff happens does give a little peace of mind. However, that's not the safety I'm talking about. We knew we wanted a new house. We wanted to be in a neighborhood with some amenities, with some sidewalks, and the type of spot where you could just leave and your door would be unlocked and you wouldn't have to worry. Not saying we don't lock our door, don't come after us, but having that option and that peace of mind matters. The neighborhood we were in Baton Rouge had a lot of entrances and exits, and honestly, it was a busy street. So with our kids playing outside, we had to watch them like a hawk. So now that we're in a neighborhood that doesn't have so much flow of traffic, it's a little more safe. And again, Baton Rouge has a lot of those neighborhoods offering the same things that we got, but rewind and go up to that affordability option. Sometimes they can be more expensive and we got more bang for our buck in Central. So again, it made sense for us to move. So there you have it. That's 4 main reasons of why my family moved out of Baton Rouge. And don't get me wrong, we love Baton Rouge and we miss living in the center of everything. But for this stage of life we're in now, moving out just made more sense. And again, as mentioned, if you want to explore the real estate in these different various parts of town or different cities that I mentioned, there's going to be a link in the description below. Click it or just reach out and I'm happy to kind of go city by city with you and explore those options. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you got some value from it and we'll see you next time.